we are on to a new day, and I made a list last night of all of our projects. The guys had asked me to just spend some time prioritizing because we've got so many projects, big projects, little projects, sub projects, you name it, there's projects. So they asked me to sit down last night and rewrite the list, which I did. And we have some projects that we definitely want to get done before we leave town, including the upper cabinets, like over the sink galley area there. So that's going to be top priority for today for me and Andy, and Eric is going to work on electrical, but they're not here yet. So I'm going to try to get this bench situated. I don't have the hinges yet. I've been doing a lot of research. I think I may end up using my piano hinge that I have bought for the bed and just cut it down. I have 3 hinge lids here on the top, and once they are properly situated, they should come out a little bit. And there's just a bit of space in the back there that a hinge could be revealed. And I'm using basically a face frame approach for these. So you can see there's a frame around. And that means that some of the invisible hinges won't work. Also, I discovered that basically the European style hinges that need to be recessed require a 1/2 inch mortise, I guess, basically to recess the hinge into the cabinet door. Kind of like these. You can see right here, there's a hole into the cabinet door, and that's fine because this cabinet is more than 3/4 inch thick, but most of my cabinets are 1/2 inch, and that's a 1/2 inch deep mortise, which won't work. The math just doesn't add up. So the piano hinge may work here, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do on my upper cabinets, but I will figure that out. Right now I'm going to get to work attaching all the pieces that need to be permanently affixed, making sure the spacing is right between each of the pieces, and yeah, basically making it functional. Before I do that, I did want to show you I got this little shelf built yesterday, so that felt like a good accomplishment. We also got the electrical outlet in here, and this bulkhead is now affixed. All right, I've got the face frames on these 2 cabinets right here and there. I need to go finish attaching the other piece to the top, and then we'll get the other top situated and build the footrest. Andy and I are making pretty good progress today on the cabinet that goes above the bed here. As you can see, we've got the back in and also a support piece, a cross piece. And then we're just using for positioning a very small piece of 1/2 inch plywood. This is where the floor, the bottom of the cabinet's going to be. And it's actually going to rest above this piece. So it's going to be sandwiched in here for extra support. This is actually attached to 1x6s that I ran previously across like that, all the way along that odd angle of the van. So I've lost a little space behind. So right there, you can kind of see the gap between the wall and the backing here. And as I'm shooting this, I realized that we totally forgot to insulate back there. So I'm gonna go ahead and cram some insulation in. If I have to, we can take these panels down, but hopefully I will be able to get what I need to in there. I find that a mistake like this is what happens when I'm either rushing to get something done because I'm really eager, or I'm super tired, or both. And we have been doing the van build. Well, gosh, I've been working on it full time since late April, with a few exceptions of weekends here and there, but really that's been my full-time job, except for when I went back to REI for that week at the end of May. So I had a wee little bit of burnout. And the end is in here, and I can see that it's almost done, so I'm really excited about that, but also just ready to be able to move in and actually live in the space that I'm creating with a lot of help from friends. I got started with this van build, I used a reference that I found on the web for how much 𝘼𝙗𝙤 wool to buy, but 𝘼𝙗𝙤 was not available anywhere because of the pandemic and everything being back ordered. So I found a supplier out of the UK for a different kind of wool, and it's a blend of wool and recycled polyester, like polyester fiberfill. And they connected me to a distributor in Canada, and I used the same measurements that I would have for buying 𝘼𝙗𝙤 wool to buy wool from them. And it seems like what I got covers more, or somehow I'm using less, but I'm insulating everywhere I can possibly think to insulate. And I'm working on my 5th roll, and I still have 2 rolls to go. So I may have some insulation left at the end of the project, we'll see, but better, I think, to have too much and be stuffing it everywhere you think you might need it versus trying to conserve it and then find out later that your van is not well insulated enough. All right, now I can get back to checking my templates before I cut any wood. And each side here is different. So this is bed left, which is over here. It will just come up to the ceiling and right before the corner on the door. So it seems like something is always lost in translation when you trace a template to another piece of paper. So I always make sure that I don't use my templates without testing first. So like if I were to go and cut wood with this, it'd be an awful lot harder to make my adjustments. Slide down. Oh, we're all down. Wait.
How about come back towards me and then square the bulkhead?
Measure twice.
Look how pretty that is. Hi.
Hello.
Our first overhead cabinet is in, and he's just tightening up the screws, and I'm pretty darn excited. It's looking pretty solid, and I don't think it's gonna fall down. We do have a little bit of gap here by the ceiling. Part of that I think is at the ceiling of the van. The height is not real level, and we didn't scribe the front of the cabinet to match the ceiling, but I think that's gonna be totally fine, especially when you have doors on. You probably won't see it at all. But yeah, overall I'm really happy with it. Probably gonna come back with some wood filler and take care of all these holes from the Craig screws, just because we don't want dust together in there or for our clothes to catch on that. But other than that, I think it's looking pretty sweet. You happy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One step closer to moving in the van. What you doing there? Putting holes and stuff?
Yep.
Are you making our bench, our footrest?
I'm working on it.
Yeah, and he's working hard. He's got the braces in here for the footrest, and now he's working on the front. And this will just pull out and make a nice little seat, give us an L-shaped seating area. And in between working on that, we just finally got the upper cabinet in, our kitchen cabinet, galley cabinet. Storage, I'm all about the storage. And the other day I put in this faux tile. It's sticky back plastic, but I think it looks pretty good. Wasn't the easiest thing to put in. If you look super closely, you can see some of the seams in a couple places. We keep pressing it down to make sure it seals all right. And then the next step here, besides the doors, I'm still deciding on hinges, is to wire the under cabinet lights. We're going to do 2 strips of LEDs there. Yeah, we're making a lot of progress, so getting stuff done. And this is not going to fall off, is it?
We'll see.
Better not.
The threads are really fine on these number 4 screws.
Yeah, 4 screws are tiny. Something I've learned in van building, that numbers mean something. So yes, we use number 4 screws, which are very thin. 4 is the thickness of the screw. When We're using 4, 8, a few 10s and some 6s. But we found, particularly for things like piano hinges and some other small applications, the number 4s are good. So we just picked up some of those today on our daily Home Depot trip. So he's got what he needs to finish putting that stool or footrest together. And while he's doing that, I'm working on the shelf that's going to go over bed, and I'm doing some creative things with some metal mesh, and I'll show you that in a little bit. You working hard there, buddy? It's tough being the guard dog, isn't it? So over here, kind of upside down, is the shelf that I'm building. And originally I was doing just a traditional rectangle shape with kind of rounded corners, and I realized that having that above my head was a little intimidating. So I just went with a simple arc, and then I'm going to use metal mesh for the front face of it. Let me go show you that. This is the wire mesh. I got this several months ago from Lowe's. I thought it was really pretty, and I'm going to use it both on the face of the shelf, probably about, I don't know, 3-4 inches high, and then the rest of it I'm going to use on the doors of the cabinet that's going above the refrigerator. Since I want that mesh to follow this curve, I've been looking for some kind of wood that I could use to support it, and I did have a few cut-offs of some of our good quality plywood that's got lots of layers, and it's somewhat flexible, but I didn't have enough pieces, I think, that were the right length. So when we were at Home Depot today, we found these square dowels that I think will work, and I know if I had access to steam, I could soften them up and fit them to a mold, but it's pretty humid out, so I'm going to go ahead and see if I can clamp them to either side here to follow this curve, just to get the wood prepared for the curve that I want it to hold. And then once that is done, I can actually take it off and attach it. This is upside down, but I'll attach it here and here with the mesh on the front of it. I have the first end clamped here to the curve, and I'm going to go ahead and just slowly bend it over and clamp it to the other side. I'm going to clamp down my shelf too so it doesn't go flying away. And there it is. The wood bent really nicely to the curve here, and I've taped it just to make sure that it stays close and straight. I'm going to go ahead and let it sit for at least 2 or 3 hours, possibly overnight, before I try to work with it some more. I've got plenty of other projects to do, including making the cabinet that's going to go above our refrigerator, and that's going to have those other pretty doors on it, so I'm going to get to work on that right now. Good morning. It's Sunday. Forrest is relaxing as usual, and we are working on our punch list. We're not going to be 100% done, but I think we might be 98% done. We are aiming for tomorrow, but this morning Eric told me that he is off on Monday and Tuesday and available to help us, so we may end up just stretching that a day or so. Getting close. I know I keep saying that, but every time I step in the van it feels more and more like home, which is really amazing. I just took the clamps off this wood that I was bending overnight. It's been about 5 minutes, and it's kind of popped the tape a little bit, but I'm hoping that it's at least taking the form somewhat, so I can go ahead and get the front part on. I cut this metal last night, and the way it's going to work is that this edge will be the top. It will come around, the shelf is upside down, but it'll come around like this and just be a decorative edge. So the wood here is going to wrap it and keep it in place. My little wood pieces do have some curve to them. They're not fully bent, but at least I know that they can take that curve. So I'm going to take these and attach them to the metal mesh and see about attaching it to the shelf frame as well, and I'll let you know how it works out.